Well, one of the areas that Bitcoin can bring a lot of value to is replacing the credit card networks. Visa, MasterCard, Amex, they all charge merchants about 2 to 4% in merchant transaction fees. And there's two areas where Bitcoin can be used for payments, online and offline. So in Bitcoin online payments, that area has taken off a lot because a lot of the merchant fees are much higher. It's a much higher fraud rate, much higher chargeback rate for transactions that are done online. So merchants are getting charged a lot more percentage for transactions online. And this area of Bitcoin payments, online Bitcoin payments, has taken off. These are some of the examples of some of the organizations accepting Bitcoin right now online. Of course, there's about 10 billion-dollar companies that are accepting payments online. Of course, the biggest one right now is called Dell Computers. If anybody's ever bought a Dell computer, well, now you can buy your computer with Bitcoin. And for Dell, it's unbelievable to accept Bitcoin online. It actually adds to their margins, and we'll get into that a bit more later. Bitcoin payments offline, though, has moved along much slower. It's been a lot harder for merchants to start accepting Bitcoin payments in a physical store. The biggest difference is you now need to get the POS system involved. You need to train your staff on how to start accepting Bitcoin. It's hard enough that they have to know how to use that swiper terminal and use the cash register, the machine. But now, how do we accept Bitcoin? What's this QR code thing? That's been a huge stumbling block, a huge reason why you don't see Bitcoin payments as much in the offline world, in the physical world. But online, there's been a lot more Bitcoin payments. So I'm actually going to show you what it looks like for an online Bitcoin payment. And the way I'm going to do that is by donating some money to the United Way, who, funny enough, accepts Bitcoin. So here you can see on my screen, we've got donate Bitcoin to the United Way. Now normally it would be, enter your credit card number here, your first name, last name, email address, full address, CCV. But here, because United Way is using Coinbase, and Coinbase recognizes that I'm currently signed in, so they know that I'm signed in as Lauren Lance. It's just a one click. But I'm going to show you what it looks like to pay with a Bitcoin address. And you see here, this is the QR code, look familiar from before, and the United Way's Bitcoin address. And through this, I can actually send them some Bitcoin. So if I click on that, I'm just going to grab their Bitcoin address here. I'm going to go to my Coinbase and send some money. So I'll just go to that Bitcoin address. We'll send $1. I'll donate $1 to United Way. And click send. Let's go back here really quickly. See? You see how that worked? Instantly, United Way, or Coinbase, recognized immediately for the United Way that the Bitcoin was received into their account. And so that's what a Bitcoin payment looks like online. For offline, we're actually going to cut to some video of myself paying with Bitcoin in a physical location. We're here at the Cups and Cakes Bakery in San Francisco, one of the first in the world to start accepting Bitcoin. And we're going to walk you through how to pay for something with Bitcoin. So if we can just get some chocolate cupcake, I think, yeah, that one looks great. So the only piece of information that she needs to share is their Bitcoin address, which is embedded in this QR code. That's it. For me, I take out my smartphone, I've got my Coinbase wallet, and I have money sitting on the wallet, and I'm going to send money from my Coinbase account to their BitPay merchant account. And the way I do that is I take out my phone and I scan the QR code. And as you can see here, it pre-populates my Coinbase account, my Coinbase wallet, with their Bitcoin address, the amount, and That's it. So if I just want to pay for it, I just click send and it should show up right over here. And that's it. I've sent the money from my Coinbase wallet to their BitPay account. And that's it. They've received their money. So that was really interesting on how you can do a Bitcoin payment in person. But why would any merchant really want to accept Bitcoin? What's in it for them? Well, there's three main values as to why any merchant would want to start accepting Bitcoin. The first is they get much lower transaction fees. Now remember, we talked about before, it's actually the consumer, the person sending the money, who pays the fees, the network fees. The person receiving the money doesn't pay any fees. You know, it's just like receiving an email. You don't pay anything for receiving an email. Instant money. So as soon as the merchant gets the Bitcoin, they can instantly turn around and spend that Bitcoin to buy lettuce for the salad they're making or pay their staff. So they don't have to wait the 1 or 2 days or 3 days that a payment processor would take for processing a credit card transaction. And 3, this is a huge one for merchants. There's no risk of chargeback. And there's actually no risk of fraud either. So chargebacks are, of course, you know, somebody stole your credit card, you get a phone call from the credit card company, and oh, you know, I didn't make that transaction in upstate New York when I've been living in San Francisco. How could I? Someone stole my credit card and did some fraudulent transactions. Well, in the end, it's the merchant who pays that fee from that fraud, from those chargebacks. And of course, the other big thing is there is no way of faking a Bitcoin. There's no, you know, just like you can make fake money, fake cash, there is no way you can fake a Bitcoin. If you receive a Bitcoin, it's there. You know, there's thousands of computers in the world verifying that that Bitcoin is real. Now, for the consumers, though, it's completely different. It's actually a consumer disincentive to pay with Bitcoin. And these are consumers here in the Western world. You lose your rewards cards. You know, if you have an Amex, you no longer reap those 1% cash back, 2% cash backs. You don't get those reward miles of flying on airlines. You lose your ability to do a chargeback, so you lose that consumer protection. But of course, we saw in the security area, there's other ways of trying to secure your money. And 3, the consumer now pays the transaction fee instead of the merchant paying the transaction fee through credit cards. There are some consumers, though, who do have an incentive to pay with Bitcoin. First, and this is the one we hear a lot about through Silk Road, the partial anonymity of Bitcoin has allowed for people on the black market to want to use it. They have a huge incentive to use Bitcoin, hoping that their tracks will always be covered. You know, it's actually, who is it, WikiLeaks. You know how they take all their donations now? You know, a few years ago, they had their accounts shut down by PayPal, all the banks, and this was imposed by the government. Well, right now, the way they accept donations is through Bitcoin. Travelers, world travelers, like we mentioned before, if I'm spending my Canadian credit card here in the US, I'm instantly getting charged an exchange rate fee. But I won't get charged that exchange rate fee if I pay with Bitcoin. People paranoid about privacy. If you've ever had your identity stolen, the best way to make a payment is, and not have your identity passed along, is through Bitcoin. Because the only thing I'm passing along is just my Bitcoin address. There is no Lauren Lance, you know, lives at this address, blah, blah, blah. They don't have my bank details. Every time I swipe my credit card, I'm actually giving all my credit card details to every single merchant I make that payment with. So people paranoid about privacy will love using Bitcoin. And of course, the underbanked and the unbanked. These people just don't have a choice. They don't have a choice to use a credit card. And this is their first opportunity to use a digital currency. And of course, people in Argentina. You know, if they're going to want to store their value in Bitcoin instead of storing their value in their local peso, they're also going to probably want to spend their money in Bitcoin because they already have their money in Bitcoin. So these are the two major differences between a credit card transaction and a Bitcoin transaction. And with credit cards, when I go to a merchant and I swipe my credit card, they're actually pulling the money out of my bank, out of my credit card account. You know, I actually have to give them my credit card information, my CCV, the expiry date, my name, and then they pull the money out. Whereas with Bitcoin, the biggest difference is it's actually a push transaction. When you saw those examples of transactions before, you see that the merchant gives their Bitcoin address. And for me as a consumer, all I have to do is push the money to them. I don't have to share any sensitive data with them, nothing. I just push the money to them. Once they receive it, then that's it. It's done. And that's the major difference between doing a Bitcoin payment and a credit card payment. So the merchant doesn't even know it, but I just paid with Bitcoin with the Shift card. Meg Nakamura is the CEO and founder, co-founder of Shift. And we're going to learn how they're able to help Bitcoin enthusiasts be able to pay for anything, anywhere, as long as they accept credit card with Bitcoin.
Shift Payments allows users to connect any financial account to an independent wallet. So think like mint.com, you're able to see all your accounts in one place, but what we do is we actually attach a Visa debit card that allows you to then spend any of those balances. So we're really unlocking value that you might not have thought to spend at traditional point of sales. And we're beta testing with things wide spectrum, everything from Bitcoin to loyalty points to gold to traditional fiat. Just like you do your existing cards, you would hand over the Shift card, and you just, as a user, select which balance you want to be your funding balance, and it draws from that account. This card is unlocking all stores of value. So when I say store of value, we don't necessarily think of airline miles as liquid financial assets. Sure, you can redeem them for a plane ticket or something, but you can't necessarily convert miles into a cappuccino. This card allows you to do that. And we have a number of cards out there. We're really excited by our beta usage. Everyone's really demonstrating a passion for wanting to live off of Bitcoin, essentially. But at the same time, activity does take a dip. There's no denying it. And frankly, I'm guilty of it too. When you buy Bitcoin at $500, $600 and you see it at $300, it's really hard to stomach. Your $10 sandwich is all of a sudden $20. It's a big deal. I am most excited about what blockchain enables and these underlying infrastructure protocols. I believe these technologies are going to allow for a better future, right? So your question about how are payments going to be different in 10 years? It will be different because of these inventions, innovations.
So that was the section on Bitcoin payments. We saw what motivates merchants and what motivates consumers to accept Bitcoin. And we also saw online and offline payments.